Hello there. My name is Daniel Sykes. I am the Protect Officer for the Cybercrime Unit for Surrey and Sussex Police. Last week, we held a series of webinars titled Cybersecurity for Humans. We had over 300 people sign up for these events. It was a huge success. We got a ton of amazing questions, and I think a lot of people got some amazing value from the sessions. Now, as promised, I said that I would deliver a version which could be pre-recorded and go up on our Force YouTube account. So here I am today, and so, what's the purpose of this presentation then? So, fundamentally, I want to inform people about the resources available for free to kind of make yourself a bit more cyber resilient. We're going to be discussing the cyber threats and their impact. So, what is a cyber criminal? What does a typical cyber criminal look like? What tactics do they use? And most importantly, we're going to be covering some cybersecurity tips. So, how can you stay safe online? Now, I think one of the biggest misconceptions about the cybersecurity industry is that you need to be very technical to stay safe online. This is really not the case. My grandma, she's 73 years old, and she's not very technical with computers and gadgets, bless her. But she's one of the most cyber resilient people I know because she knows what to look out for. Now, I don't want people to just look at the word cybersecurity and get scared thinking there's going to be all this technical detail because it's really not the case. This presentation is designed to have everything you need to know, none of the fluff. My belief personally is that if people are using overly esoteric language and stuff which is overly complicated, it's just there's no point to it. If people aren't getting the value from it, then what is the point? And especially when, at least in my experience, about 82% of cyber attacks actually they're predicated on quite basic phishing attacks. This will all make sense to you later on, but essentially most cyber attacks aren't overly sophisticated. So mastering the PowerPoint that I'm delivering today will massively reduce your chance of being a victim. Now, we are a public service, like we're not charging anyone for cybersecurity training, but if you want to help us, then we have a very brief survey at the end of this presentation, which you can scan via a QR code via a smartphone, or there'll be a link in the description. Now, I believe that the forces should be doing a lot more kind of proactive webinars and engagement activities, and having the evidence that people have gotten value from webinars such as this. It really helps us with our goals. So, some background statistics. Now, I'm sure you guys have all heard of fraud, and a starting statistic that we have now is that over half of all crime is fraud related, which is a staggering statistic. 82 and 86% of that is facilitated using digital technology. Now, it's just absolutely amazing how many cases that we get every single month in the unit. Now, the Home Office estimates that the UK economy suffers about 7 billion in losses each year from cyber attacks. If you ask most people in the industry, they'll say it's substantially higher than that. And of course, the British Safety Council here has given a figure of 8 trillion globally each year, and that's in dollars. As you can see, it's an astoundingly abundant crime type, and ever more so in a digital age. What I always like to say to people is, when was the last time you heard someone rob a bank? It just doesn't happen at the same frequency that it used to do in the past, mainly because crime has substantially moved online, at least fraud has. So as a force, we're obviously changing to meet the demands of future crime types. Now, just to give you some examples of what a typical cyber attack might be, there's some kind of quite prolific cases here. So the big one in 2015 was the VTEC cyber attack. Now, VTEC is a child's tablet and phone and smart device manufacturer. They make tablets and things, and children are able to post pictures on them. They're able to talk to their friends and do recordings and bits and pieces like that. Now, this company had a massive breach where over 5 million devices had a whole bunch of information compromised. Now, the scale of the breach was investigated, and as the days went by, the seriousness of the situation kind of quickly unfolded, and eventually it was identified that not only had the email addresses, home addresses, and personal details of the parents that were purchasing these machines been leaked online, but also all of the images, recordings, and text messages that children had sent to one another were leaked online as well. Um, just imagine how horrific that must have been to deal with as a company. Now, fortunately, the threat actor wasn't there to do anything overly malicious, so that could have been a lot worse than it actually was, and they faced a quite a big fine. The company did from the Federal Trade Commission, which I think was nothing in comparison to the damage that it actually did. But another example, a bit more kind of closer to home. This was the NHS WannaCry ransomware incident. So this wasn't tailored towards the NHS. It was a global strain of what's called ransomware. Ransomware is basically a digital padlock on a bunch of files. It does something called encryption. So if all your files are encrypted, the criminal or threat actor, they will then send you a blackmail message. They'll say, "Hi, I've got all your files encrypted. I'm not going to give them back to you unless you pay me a ransom," hence the name. So essentially, the victim will be paying for a key in order to decrypt the files that the criminal had locked. Now, in 2017, there was a huge attack on the NHS where 90, I think it cost about 90 million pounds, and it resulted in 19,000 appointments and surgeries being cancelled. Now, of course, when we think about cybercrime, we often think about it in economic terms, but so much of our lives now depend on digital infrastructure. And when we can't operate our hospitals and places like that, that can have a huge impact on actual life itself. So it's really important that cybersecurity is taken with appropriate severity. Now, Cyber Protect. So in our unit, we have at the moment, as of October 2023, we have 2 detectives, which is quite shocking, and we service all of Surrey and all of Sussex, so over 2 million people. But we also have the Protect function, so which is myself. Now, essentially, it's the proactive arm of the cybercrime unit. So I go out to community groups, I speak to victims, I speak to small businesses, and I generally try and make people as cyber resilient as possible. So one of the proudest features of our unit is that every single reporting victim will receive bespoke cybersecurity advice, either from myself or other members of staff as well. I'm very proud of the service that we deliver to victims, and we also offer free training to charities and small businesses just to make them cyber resilient and help them on their journey to staying safe online. Now, where do you report crimes? So all fraud in the UK is typically encouraged to be reported on Action Fraud, which is the UK's national fraud reporting website. But in addition to that, email scams, we have this address here, report@phishing.gov.uk. It's really important that people send over malicious emails that they receive onto that address. As a result, we've been able to take down a huge number of malicious websites and online scams. So, who are the cyber criminals? Now, when Sussex Police and bless them, their comms channels were promoting the events, they used quite a funny graphic of a I forget what the thing's called. It's like a little bandana that goes around someone's face and eyes, and it was some like kind of criminal perched over a laptop. And is that the typical cyber criminal? No, it honestly isn't. But there's a huge variety. So the first up, we have OCGs or organized crime gangs. So a huge proportion of cyber criminals are actually based abroad, and the people that call you asking like for your bank account details, they're pretending to be from HMRC, whatever they are. Often they're from quite sophisticated fraud warehouses or huge call centers. There's a huge amount of sophistication. So these companies will have secretaries, they'll have managers, presidents, all kinds of things, and they're all designed to defraud victims. So the organization can be quite astounding. Criminal hackers, this is a bit more domestic. So typically they skew a bit younger. So they're going to be teenagers who are hacking into their school's internet, or people who are potentially a bit neurodiverse who don't understand the harm that cyber criminality can cause to people. And there's obviously disgruntled ex-employees and insider threats. So one of the things that some people the companies do, especially in America, is when someone gets fired, they'll immediately escort them out of the building. The reason being is because they don't want that employee or ex-employee to do any damage to the physical space of the office. Now, in a cybersecurity context, someone can do a lot more damage by deleting valuable files or changing passwords when they're leaving an organization. So insider threats are a huge risk as well. And especially if you're an insider employee and you've got high privileges to a computer network, you can do some real damage. So we always want to raise awareness that these are two quite key cyber criminal demographics. Hacktivists. So this was essentially they're essentially people that are hacking or getting unauthorized access to information for some kind of political or social cause. And there's obviously state-sponsored hacking as well, increasingly so in this day and age. So these are essentially state actors who have been endorsed by a government. So think of North Korea, think of Russia, who are then targeting infrastructure. So we've had a lot of ransomware in cases in Surrey and Sussex recently, where the origins do actually come from Russia. Now, who are the victims as well? So I would say that anyone can be the victim of cybercrime. I don't think you should ever feel like you're young, therefore you're going to be immune. Some of the most intelligent and technical people I know still fall victim to cyber criminality just because they don't know what to look out for. Now, as I said at the start of this presentation, this is titled Cybersecurity for Humans because it's everything you need to know and none of the fluff. If you don't know what to look out for, you can still be the victim of cybercrime, no matter how technical you are. So being technical is not the holy grail to staying safe online. It's about being able to know what the threats are and the steps that you can take to identify them. In our unit, we see the average age demographic just skew slightly older, so around like the 50s mark. But again, it really does depend on the crime type. Obviously, so social media compromises, they kind of skew a bit younger as well. But generally, anyone can be the victim. So please don't ever feel complacent. Now, the threat picture. So, what kind of cyber attacks are there? There's a huge variety. Most cyber attacks are predicated on malware. So, whenever a computer does anything, it uses something called software. It's like the language of computers. Now, malware basically means malicious software. So, it's any kind of software designed to harm your device. And ransomware, which we discussed earlier about the digital padlocks and encryption, that is a form of malware. Now, there's other types as well. There's a DDoS, so that's where a criminal, typically they'll target an e-commerce website or some kind of small business of a website. They'll send loads of packets of information and data, and they'll crash the website because there's just too much stuff coming towards it, and they'll demand a payment in order to free up that website so it's not being crashed. Now, hacking is the unauthorized access to information. Just a disclaimer, you can get what's called ethical hackers. So a company can sponsor you to penetration test their security network. That is legal. That's called endorsed and ethical hacking. But if you're getting unauthorized access to information and computer systems, that is where it becomes an offense under the Computer Misuse Act. Now, a substantial proportion of threat actors are actually based abroad and they'll spoof UK locations. So a lot of them are in developing countries such as like India, Pakistan, Nigeria, places like that where typically wages are quite low, but access to internet is somewhat abundant in cafes and places like that. So there's lots of kind of quirky phrases in cyber. I'm not going to give you some overly technical stuff you don't need to know. I've identified some terms here I think will be quite useful for people to understand. Now, first up, we have Trojan. So this obviously comes from the Greek legend where the Greek army is trying to besiege the city of Troy. They couldn't get past the gates, so what they did is they built a giant wooden horse. They gifted it to the people of Troy. The Trojans were like, "Oh, wonderful! It's a free horse." But actually, that horse was a vehicle for the invading Greek force. So as soon as the horse was let in through the city gates, the Greek army descended and caused a spot of bother for the poor Trojans. Now, if you can get this analogy, you can see that essentially just because something looks beneficial doesn't mean that it's all it's caked up to be, because a Trojan essentially it may look like something beneficial to you. It could be a free movie, a free video game, a free bit of software, but often these things can be used to kind of sneak in malware onto your devices. If it looks too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Now, phishing. Now, 82% of cyber attacks are that they start off with a phishing attack, which is a staggering statistic. Now, phishing is essentially the kind of common things that you see every day. It's the emails, it's the scam things, it's people sending you an email saying, you've won the lottery, click on this link. Generalized phishing attacks are hugely abundant in this day and age, and they're often the most common threat vector that we see. Now, spear phishing is a more targeted form of phishing. This is where people have information, well, criminals have information about you, and they're using that information to try and tailor their phishing emails so you're more likely to click on something. So, it might emulate a trusted source. Let's say that you have a dog and it's named Sam. They might emulate your vet and they'll say, "Hi, ex-victim. Sam is due in for this important scan. Please click on this link to see the results or information, whatever it may be." Essentially, they're using information about you to try and kind of pull on your heartstrings a little bit, or in a corporate sense, it will look slightly differently. They might emulate one of your suppliers or whatever that may be. So again, it's more tailored forms of phishing. Now, people, as I said, if you're an intelligent person but you don't realize that people can actually try and phish you like this in a more targeted form, you can, fall victim to it. Now, whaling, this is where criminals go after kind of CEOs, finance companies, places like that. As a police service, we're not typically looking to be the cybersecurity sponsor for places like Microsoft because they can fund their own security teams. We're kind of focused on charities, schools, small businesses, and obviously community groups and victims as well. Now, social engineering, again, as I said, it's not overly technical. So most cyber attacks that we see, they're predicated on social engineering. So it's manipulating people, trying to get people to do something. trying to get them to panic, take a click on some kind of action, download a file, things like that. So most cyber attacks, they are predicated on just that kind of human element of trying to convince someone to do something they wouldn't normally do. Now, smishing and vishing, so these are kind of phone-based scams. This is kind of outside the remit of cyber, but I do have a slide later on all about how to stay safe from phone scams. Now, the impact to victims. If you are the victim of a theft and you're walking away around the high street or whatever, someone takes your purse or your wallet or something like that. That's obviously quite devastating. It sucks. It ruins your day and probably your week as well. But at least you know you're not going to see that criminal again, or at least you're highly likely not to. Um, if you are the victim of a really heavy cyber attack and someone has got access to your phone, they've got access to your emails, your correspondence, your family pictures, all of your documents, everything like that. That can be so absolutely invasive and so just it causes so much fear in so many of the victims that we deal with that they can become afraid for their own physical security. They can have this feeling that they're always being watched. Some victims can become suicidal. It can be absolutely devastating to think that someone has access to your most sensitive information and they're using that to blackmail you, your family, your friends, places like that. It can be devastating, especially to the more vulnerable in our society. So, those of you who have elderly relatives or loved ones, just imagine how devastating a cyber attack could be on that person. It's really quite heartbreaking, and we've had so many cases where, for me personally, I just found it very difficult because it's so devastating, and these victims feel so absolutely crippled by what's happened to them. And so it's so important that we get out there to communities and make sure that they're aware of the risk factors before they become the victim. Now, obviously, the financial impacts can massively vary. If someone takes over a social media account, what they usually do is they'll blackmail the owner. They'll say, "Give me £500, and I'll stop blackmailing your friends." It'll be something like that. But it can scale all the way up to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even millions. So for small businesses, it can be absolutely crippling. So if you're using a website and your website is down for a week and you can't do business, you've got no business continuity plans, that can cripple your business and you can go bankrupt. Because if you're not able to do business for a week or 2 weeks and you're operating on quite a tight margin, it can be absolutely devastating. Now, of course, that can lead to a loss of confidence and a loss of trust as well. And if clients don't feel like they can store information safely with your organization, they're going to use someone else. And this from an individual element as well. If you're the victim of cybercrime, that obviously can lead you to be not being confident using technology, not feeling safe on the internet as well, which I think is really sad because we are living in a digital age, and it's not just our job to keep people safe online, but we want people to feel safe as well. So, what can you do to stay safe online? What's like the first thing you can do? Well, that would be passwords. Now, we recommend for passwords people use three random words supported by special characters. So, I repeat, three random words supported by special characters. Sometimes it's better to use a passphrase rather than a password. Now, what are some bad passwords? I'm sure you're all thinking of some at the moment. It's like my dog's name, it's my date of birth. It could be my favorite color. These things are terrible passwords. I know it's easy to do, and I think we've all been guilty at some point in our past of having a really bad password like this. But these passwords are very easy to guess. So we mentioned earlier about spear phishing and all these kind of things because people use information about you to try and guess your password. Now, if it's just your dog's name and someone knows that your dog's name is Sam, they're going to type in Sam followed by your date of birth, and eventually people are going to get into your password. But alternatively as well, people can actually guess passwords. Well, not really guess passwords, but they can kind of brute force it. If you have a single word, a lot of criminals have software programs where they can input a huge variety of random words into the password input box. And if you have a single word as your password, eventually they're going to crack it. So it's a matter of timing, really. So having a free random words massively amplifies that complexity. Now, I know you're thinking, like, Daniel, I can't keep track of all these different passwords, free random words, and all this kind of stuff. We recommend that people have different passwords for different accounts as well. How do you keep track of it? Now, it's a very good question, and what I would suggest people do is use a password manager. So these come in different shapes and forms. Some of them are kind of you download them on a smartphone. Some of them are kind of more desktop based, and you can also get other ones as well. But essentially, it's an easy way to manage your password. So you can copy and paste the password whenever you're trying to log on to a certain account. But alternatively, you can do what I do personally and go a bit old school. Have a password notebook. somewhere that you keep safe, somewhere that's secure, where you have all your passwords and have a unique password for all your accounts. And again, as I said, free random words supported by special characters. Now, actually, one funny story. One organization I went to almost a year ago now. They basically said they're doing all the best things with their passwords. They've got strong passwords, free random words, and they change them every year as well. And I went into one of the employees' offices, and they had a sticky note with the password on it. It was a free random word password, but it was like plastered on the actual monitor, and they were right outside a busy street as well, with a window facing the street, so you could just like peer in and see the password. That's one thing to bear in mind as well, is that when you're storing passwords, don't have them in an accessible place. Like, make sure that your password notebook or whatever it may be is stored somewhere secure. So two-step verification, this is really important as well. So essentially, this is another check to make sure that the person logging into an account is the person that it's supposed to be. Oh, sorry, I just misclicked there. Essentially, they will come in different forms. So if you're trying to log onto social media, they might send you a text prompt and they'll say, what was the code, and you can log on that way. But what I'd suggest that everyone do is use something that you are rather than something that you have. And what I mean by that is use something like a thumbprint or your Face ID, because a criminal can't emulate your thumbprint. So it's a really secure and also, in my view, very convenient way of logging onto your accounts. So I'd suggest, after watching this video, go on your social media accounts and check and make sure you've got these kind of things enabled. Because even if someone does have your password, if you have two-step verification enabled, they're still not getting into your accounts, and they can save you a absolute nightmare of a time if someone gets access to your social media. Like so many victims I deal with, they lose access to their accounts, and they're kicking themselves, just wishing they had 2FA enabled before they became a victim. So privacy settings, we talked about spear phishing earlier, and what I'm getting at here is that we have so much of our digital footprint online. So many people, I'm sure we've all got that friend that has the tendency to post everything they're doing on social media. They'll say where they're going, what their favorite color is. They'll even have their date of birth and all this kind of stuff on their About Me page. This stuff can be really dangerous in a cybersecurity context. Because obviously, when we think about burglaries and other kind of physical based crimes, if people know that you're going to be away from the weekend, they might burgle your house. But in a cybersecurity context, if people have all this information about you, they can use that to craft spear phishing emails. So they could identify, what your date of birth is, who your family members are, what your pet's name is, all these other bits and pieces, and they can emulate that and try and spear phish you. So I'm sure you guys have seen the WhatsApp family scam that goes around, where essentially someone will emulate relatives and try and get money from a victim. This can actually happen because of loose privacy settings. So if I go on John's Facebook page and John's got no privacy settings, I can see that John has a daughter named Stacy, and John's got a dog or whatever it may be. And I've also got John's phone number because he's posted it on his Facebook. What a criminal might do is they might emulate Bob's John's daughter, and they'll say, hi Dad, I'm involved in a traffic accident. I need some money. I lost my phone. That's why I'm contacting you from this other number. It might be something like that. And these things do happen. It sounds quite trivial, but these things do happen often as a result of lax privacy settings. So always make sure that you're going on your Who Can See My Stuff page on Facebook. It looks slightly differently on your different accounts, and make sure you're controlling what people can see about you online. Now, smart devices, so we use these all the time now in this day and age. They're designed to make our lives easier. That you'll ring doorbells, things like that. We have smart toasters now. We have smart fridges, smart everything. Now, these can be a cybersecurity risk if you're not managing them properly. Actually, when doorbell cameras first came about, a lot of the knockoff brands, they would have by default the username and the password as admin. As you can see from that funny graphic there on the center, it's a Cheeto or WhatsApp being used as a door lock. Obviously, if you get the analogy there, having an admin or password as a password is very bad security practice. A criminal can just log onto an account very easily from that, and they can hack your device. So when these knockoff cameras first came about to try and track people coming into a door, you could just log onto the accounts. And there's quite a few teenagers who were able to log on to people's doorbell cameras. And obviously, when people came home from work or whatever, the teenagers would yell at them and prank them. And obviously, it sounds quite trivial, but there can be a lot more malicious ways that can actually happen as well. So if you think about the degree to which our homes are often run by smart devices now, now. A lot of people have smart fridges, where essentially they're designed to restrict children from getting access to alcohol, things like that. If someone's got access to your smart devices, they can cause you a whole world of grief. They can lock the fridge. For a lot of ransomware demands recently, the criminal gangs have had the nerve to actually physically print the ransom demand on printed paper because they've got control of the organization's smart printers and things like that. So it's really important. And obviously, in a relationship context as well, households change all the time, and if you're leaving a relationship, make sure you're managing the digital breakup process. So you're relinquishing permissions for different smart devices and things like that. It's something to just really think about when you go home today. Now, on a personal level as well, your digital footprint is hugely important. And what I recommend that people do is go through what's called an activity tracker on Facebook or Meta, and make sure that you're happy with your digital footprint and everything you've posted online. Not just from a criminal aspect, just from your own quality of life as well. I'm sure we've all got those embarrassing posts that we made 10 years ago that we will now kind of wince at, and we'll cringe at what we used to say and do. And obviously, in this day and age, a lot of young people go to parties or whatever, and if there's something a bit more embarrassing they don't want employers to see, make sure you're going on your activity tracker and you're controlling what your digital footprint is. Not only just for your quality of life, but also you don't want information about you online that criminals can potentially use against you. So it's really important to manage that. And also, if you're unfortunate enough to still be using Snapchat, I'd suggest that you use what's called ghost mode. So essentially, this will stop people from seeing where you're snapping from. A lot of these private companies don't have that much of an interest in keeping people safe. So making sure that you're using things like ghost mode is really important because it will stop people from seeing where you're posting. In a corporate sense as well, be very mindful of what your out of office messages are. So when we're away from work because we're on annual leave, people will typically do an out of office message, which is an automatic email. Make sure you're not giving away too much information there that criminals could use to spearfish you. So things like where you're going to go, who the account director is, their contact details, nicknames, things like that. That information can then be used to track down an employee on LinkedIn, send them a phishing email, and try and bait them into clicking something. So something to be very mindful of. Just don't give away information that you don't need to give away. We won't talk about cryptocurrency too much today. I can't tell people what to invest in and what not, or what not to invest in. All I will say is that cryptocurrency can often be a snake pit. There's a huge amount of Ponzi schemes, get rich quick schemes, things like that, using very, very, very high risk platforms. What I would suggest, if you are going to invest in cryptocurrency, that you use a reputable broker. There's two major ones. There's Coinbase and Binance. Be very, very wary of the platforms that you're investing in, because there's been a lot of investment scams where people have been essentially been thinking they found some kind of legitimate trading platform. The user interface will look like Trading 212 or something like that, but in reality, the second that they put any money into it, the criminals got that money, and they'll show that the victim's making gains on their screen, but in reality, they're not making any money at all, and the criminal gangs will just escalate it. They'll try and get as much money they can as they can from these victims. So again, I can't tell you what to invest in, but I would suggest be very, very careful whenever you see someone promoting you to invest in something as a get-rich-quick scheme. So friendly software. So we talked about malware. One of the great things that you can have as well is called an antivirus product. So this will scan your device for malware. It will actively isolate it, and it will potentially remove it as well. So there's lots of brands to choose from. There's McAfee, there's AVG, there's Norton. Windows Defender has some antivirus components to it, which are pretty good. And one thing to do as well is keep your devices up to date. So I use Samsung. I get updates every 5 minutes. They can be quite annoying sometimes, but these are security patches. They're really important to have. Essentially, they're patching vulnerabilities in a bit of firmware or software. So the more exploits that are known, the more criminals are going to try and get into them. Whereas if you got it all patched and up to date, there's going to be less vulnerabilities in that version of software. So people often don't think about the physical threats to cybersecurity. Now, we've had cases in Surrey where people have been literally physically mailing USB drives, CDs to wealthy postcodes with the hopes that the victims are going to, out of curiosity, plug in the USB drive into their devices. Now, the second that that is done, of course, the device will be infected with malware. It will execute some kind of file, and it will cause a massive headache for the victim. Now, always be wary, especially if you receive a USB drive in a brown envelope or something like that. Don't let the curiosity get the better of you. Just because you see a USB drive doesn't mean you should plug it in. So if you see it in a parking lot, that could be left there on purpose. There are cases where essentially criminals have gone into a company's reception area and just left a USB drive on the main table in the hopes that people are going to be curious enough to take it back into the office area and plug it into one of their laptops. So be very mindful of these kind of things. So we always recommend that people use backups as well. So in a corporate sense, obviously, this can massively save you headaches from ransomware. If you've got a backup which is external with all your files, if you get hit by ransomware and your core server is encrypted, you can just wipe that server and then restore it from the backup, and you know, job done. You're safe. If all your eggs are in one basket and you get hit by a major cyber attack, you're going to be in a whole world of hurt. So it's really important that you maintain, you know, external backups. Just from an individual sense as well, I'd really recommend that you have a external hard drive or and supported by a cloud storage solution as well. So that way, if you lose your phone or something happens to your devices, you've still got a collection of all your family pictures and all your files that you want to save. It can just make your life easier. So if you drop your phone down the toilet, you know you've not lost all your pictures. So with public Wi-Fi as well, we always encourage people, don't do your online banking at McDonald's. So public Wi-Fi is notoriously unsafe typically. You don't always know the security of the networks that you're logging into. One of the things that we recommend that people do is use a VPN if you absolutely have to use public Wi-Fi. I mean, just personally, I've rarely ever found a time where public Wi-Fi would have been a better alternative to cellular data. But that being said, you know, public Wi-Fi, just be very careful. We always recommend that people just avoid it where possible. But a VPN can help to encrypt a lot of the files that go from your device through the network as well. So again, just be very mindful of it. Don't put any kind of unique passwords and things like that in public Wi-Fi. Just be very mindful. Just use some maybe some light social media browsing, but don't do any your work emails or anything kind of banking related. I think we had a case about a year ago. Basically, there was a financial manager arranging a payment for one of her suppliers, and essentially she was doing this via public Wi-Fi for God only knows why, and the criminal was able to intercept the messages somehow, and essentially when the payments were being kind of the logistics were being sorted out, the criminal basically spoofed the account details. They changed the actual address, so when it came time to do the payment to the supplier, the victim then paid straight into the criminal's account. So these things can happen with public Wi-Fi. We'll talk about that in a bit more detail in a second. So data breaches. So you can be doing everything right in cybersecurity. You can have strong passwords and all these other bits and pieces. But some of the organizations and businesses that we store information with can have data breaches. So there's loads of prolific cases like this. Sony had one recently, Adobe and all these other businesses, MyFitnessPal. When they have a data breach, it means that their customers' credentials are leaked online. So things like emails, password, things like that. This website here has got quite a funny name. It's called Have I Been Pwned? And essentially, it will tell you if your email or your phone number has been involved in a data breach. So it's completely safe to use. You just input your email address there. You can sign up for alerts as well, which is really useful. So the second that you're involved in a data breach and your password is potentially out there and leaked online, you're notified about it, so you can take action and change that password. Now, examples of phishing. So, as I said earlier, this accounts for the vast majority of cyber attacks that we see. Now, there's so many different ways to identify phishing, but as we said, in a more generalized format, they might be trying to be emulating a trusted source. So usually they'll screen grab some kind of logo. So one of the biggest red flags initially is that you'll see the logo is quite fuzzy. It'd be quite a poor resolution graphic. It'll be quite generalized. They'll say dear sir or madam, and because they don't know any information about you, they're sending probably hundreds of thousands of emails to people. They don't know anything about you, so they're going to try and keep it general. Because a lot of the threat actors are based abroad, the English grammar is going to be quite off as well. You'll see lots of inconsistencies in the spelling. The sentence structure will be quite off as well. And obviously, most phishing, they're trying to get you to do something. So there might be some kind of call for urgency. They might say that you need to click on something urgently, otherwise something bad will happen. But one of the best things that you can do to identify phishing is to hover over the actual email address itself. there'll always be some glaring red flags there. So if they're trying to emulate the NHS, they might put NH5 instead of NHS. There'll be lots of numbers there. In my experience as well, most threat actors don't even bother to try and mask the address they're using, and there'll be a whole bunch of red flags there, a whole bunch of numbers. It might say .ru at the end of the email address, which means it comes from Russia. There's all kinds of stuff that you can look just by looking at that email address, and just falsify it by getting the actual legitimate NHS email and just cross-referencing it. Is this the official NHS email address? If it's not, it's phishing. One of the things as well, if you are receiving a phishing email and you think it comes from one of your suppliers and it looks a little bit off, just call that person, call them on a trusted number and say, hi, did you send me this email? Chances are going to say, no, my account was hacked the other day. Don't click on anything. One of the things that you can do as well with phishing, a lot of email providers now, they use algorithms. So essentially, when you're marking things as spam, your email provider will learn from what you're marking as spam and filter out more of it so it doesn't come to you in the first place. So it's really important that you mark it as spam whenever you see phishing emails, and also as well, report it to the email address, report phishing at gov. As well, I think that's how I phrased it. It's at the start of the presentation anyway. So other examples of phishing. So in a more corporate sense, you're going to get things like, your password is about to expire. You're about to run out of storage. Again, they're trying to make you panic and think that something bad's going to happen unless you take action. Now, a lot of phishing attacks actually they occur quite late and on a Friday afternoon as well. The reason being is because people want to go home for the weekend, so they think that people are going to be a little bit more vulnerable at this time, so that's where they're going to launch their phishing attacks. Now, again, same guidance applies. Speak to people that you think it's the email's claiming to be from. Say like, did you send me this? And also, if you look at the email address here on these top two examples, you can see some glaring red flags there that it's actually not from Microsoft and it's from some dodgy place elsewhere. Now, on the bottom right here, you can get phishing emails that that have some kind of virus in the attachments. This one here has been detected by an antivirus solution, so it's marked it as malware. Don't click on it. And on the bottom left there, you can see what happens when someone gets their WhatsApp account taken over. Now, what people do with hacked accounts massively varies. Sometimes they'll just use it to farm Google ad revenue. Sometimes they'll blackmail the account owner and they'll say, I'll give you back your account if you give me a few Bitcoins or whatever it may be. It really does vary massively. Sometimes if you're potentially quite an attractive person or whatever and you've lost your access to your Instagram account, that account will then be used on dating sites and they'll be used to facilitate romance fraud. So it really does vary massively. Now, again, when someone takes over an account and they're messaging your friends and family, they might say, I've got a free gift card, please click on this link. That's often what we see when people lose access to their WhatsApp accounts or their Facebook. The criminals will then message that person's friends and family, and they'll try and bait them into clicking on something. Now, again, our guidance is still the same. Just give that person up. If you receive a message like this from one of your friends and family, call them up and just say, hi, did you send me this message? Most of the time, they're just going to say, no, I was hacked the other day. So it's really important that you take note of what to do when you receive an email like this, or a message. Just because it's from your friend doesn't mean it's legitimate. So browsing the internet safely. So we touched on VPNs. One of the best things to do is to always avoid HTTP websites. So whenever you're on a website, on the very top bar, you'll see this little thing. It's called the URL. Now, look for HTTPS. So the S stands for secure. One caveat is that just because the S is there, it doesn't mean that the website is safe. But in my experience, the vast majority of malicious websites are just HTTP websites, which means the information there is not encrypted. People can potentially steal your passwords very easily if you're on a HTTP website. So it's always important to try and veer on the side of avoiding them completely. VPNs are really useful as well for this. But we always recommend that you're very, very cautious whenever you're using public Wi-Fi. So you might get what's called an evil twin attack, which is essentially what you see on the left here. So someone's gone into Starbucks, they might have Starbucks Wi-Fi, there'll be Starbucks 1 or Starbucks 3 Wi-Fi, some kind of slight variation on it. And obviously they're hoping that that victims log on to their link and it'll bring a pop-up window on their phone, at which point the victim will enter their username and password for their email account, whatever it may be, at which point the criminal harvests that and then logs onto their account. Now, again, you'll see at the top of that image there, there's a little alert sign. So this looks slightly different on depending on your internet browser, but a lot of browsers now will alert you if you're on a dodgy website or there's something quite not right about it. They will alert you just by looking at that URL thing. So again, always look out for that digital padlock that you see on the bottom right there. And also, the best advice is just be skeptical. If it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. I get asked all the time, like, has ChatGPT and AI changed the nature of cybersecurity? Yes and no. Um, Fundamentally, our advice remains the same. If you're receiving a AI-created phishing email, the ways to identify that are still the same. It'll be some kind of call for action. It'll be some kind of like a malicious address which is sending you the email in the first place. But one thing to bear in mind as well that because AI has been used to facilitate cheating at universities and places like that, there is software now which can scan for AI written content. Just to stop students cheating, but alternatively, it can be used in a cybersecurity sense as well, to detect whenever an email has been written by AI as well. So has it changed the nature of cybersecurity? I think, yes, in some senses, because it makes writing spear phishing emails obviously a lot faster, a lot more efficient, but the guidance still remains the same as well. So, phishing and phone-based scams is a bit outside the remit of cyber, but one of the things we always recommend that people do is get what's called a true call device. If you're receiving an absurd amount of these scam calls, you might have had your phone number leaked online or something like that, and now you're the target of loads of them. But essentially, these little devices that you attach to your landline, and they will filter out malicious calls. I don't know exactly how they work. I think it's something to do. There's like a screening process. Whenever someone tries to call a true call device, they have to go through like a screening process before that call is put forward to the victim, and that can massively filter out a huge majority of the malicious ones. These are free from trading standards. There's other places you can get them free as well, or you can purchase them individually. One thing to do on your smartphones as well is enable what's called smart call screening. It will look slightly different depending on your operating system or what phone you're using. But essentially, this will scan phone numbers that are calling your device and alerting you if they're potentially malicious. So if it's a scam call, there'll be some kind of alert saying, "Warning: this caller might be malicious." So again, it gives you a bit of a heads up. Now, don't feel obliged to answer every single call that you get because if someone really needs to get in touch with you, they will leave you a voicemail. So don't always feel obliged to get in touch. Usually, phishing calls they'll be saying that they're from your internet provider, that your internet's so slow. We're from Sky. We can fix it for you. Please click on this link. Again, they're trying to use some kind of information they have about you and trying to bait you into doing something. So always be skeptical. Other resources, there's the Southeast Cyber Resilience Centre. They've got a whole bunch of stuff there for organizations. They do a free 30-minute health check for a company's IT posture. There's a whole bunch of guidance there, as well as a monthly newsletter which they issue, which is really good and highly recommended. The National Cybersecurity Centre, they've got a bunch of pamphlets there for individuals, students, young people, organizations, every kind of demographic available. They've got advice there and how to stay safe online. Action Fraud has its own resources as well, and we'll talk about Cyber Alarm now. Now, cyber alarm is best conceptualized as kind of a digital CCTV network. What it does, it's a completely free service which organizations can download, obviously completely for free. We can support them in their journey for getting it installed. It doesn't take long. It's about 10 minutes to install it. What it will do is essentially it'll put a CCTV camera, a digital one, on your computer's firewall, or your network's firewall. So if there is a malicious IP address or some kind of attack going on your network, not only does it retain the firewall logs, so which is kind of digital evidence, but it alerts us as a police service and it alerts the organization as well, so we can be a bit more proactive and responsive in tackling potential cyber threats. And obviously, it works as a kind of collective security network as well. So if one cyber alarm member witnesses a malicious IP trying to get access to their network, the second that same IP address interacts with another one of the cyber alarm community members, then they'll be notified of that as a critical alert type thing. So one of the best, this is an example of Firewall Log. Again, this is the only technical part of the presentation. It will notify you if there's anything else that you need to take action on. But one of the best things about Cyber Alarm as well is it does a free vulnerability assessment for an organization. So if there's any kind of key vulnerabilities that are potentially making your security posture a bit weak, it will notify you and it will hold your hand through a large part of it as well. So if you need assistance and understanding what is happening, it will be there to facilitate that as well. Now, that is what I had for you all. I hope you really enjoyed it. As I said at the start of the presentation, I really do appreciate people filling out this QR codes feedback survey. There'll be a link in the description and the comment section as well. It takes just a minute, and having more people do these survey forms, it really helps us document that we're actually having a real impact, and we're helping keep people safe online, so we can do more things proactively like this. I hope you really enjoyed it. You're more than welcome to leave some questions in the comment sections. I will be answering them. I can't guarantee I'll answer them the second that you post them, but I will be checking the comment section of this video every few days or so. But I hope you really enjoyed it, and all the best. I will leave this on the screen for now, but I hope you enjoy this webinar. And as I mentioned, feel free to leave any questions. All the best. Take care.